very cleanly. It doesn't make for as fast of an offense as I think the United States is capable of playing, but they do recognize where their strengths are and seem to hit those targets with relative ease.
These two teams, each with some incredible talent. Two of the top 3 goal scorers in the women's division are in this game. Becky Malinowski led the United States with 26 goals this week, only behind Great Britain's Nikki Prianu at 29, and then Olga Chinina, 3rd in the women's division with 16. Also have your eyes on Cree Howard and Liza Bowen for the USA among the top 10 goal scorers. Elizaveta Verankova and Olga Kochena, 2 other top targets for the Russians, who will take the field in the white, and the USA team in their blues.
Wind has started to pick up coming into this game, and it's nothing like we saw yesterday. Still is a pretty stiff breeze, and we'll expect the wind to affect this game in a multitude of different ways, because you're going to have a crosswind, which is bad enough, and when you want to play a normal ultimate game at a high wind level. But then you have the stadium that's playing this, that has this buffering effect, and I don't want to get into the fine physics of it, Evan, but the disc is going to do different things and react different ways to the wind on different parts of the field.
4 years ago, the United States won gold going to Universe Point in the finals, and it was a controversial Universe Point involving Rory Titcomb, who's become one of the leaders of the 2015 United States squad as well. Elizabeth Minor, Becky Malinowski on this opening line for the United States, with Anna Nazaroff, her Fury teammate Nes Fajardo, and Cree Howard, another Fury star. And again, some sensational plays these ladies will make all game long. Howard the layout, and then hits the Boston native Malinowski. Deep shot to the end zone. Elizabeth Minor makes the catch, and a sensational start. Less than 30 seconds in, the United States up 1-0.
Great flow. It's great timing and continuation, and there's nothing better than your offense starting like this.
That's the tightest, most intense offensive flow I've seen from the United States so far, and the fastest start. When I was watching Russia play Canada, I was amazed at how intensely Russia came out in that game. I really think it set them apart from Canada early in terms of intensity and team morale. I think they beat Canada early into that game. I feel like the United States is answering back with the same kind of fire that I saw from Russia in that game. We'll see if Russia folds under that pressure or answers back.
Gorgeous day here on the beach. The wind blowing steadily, but not nearly as ferocious as the intense winds we experienced yesterday. Rory Titcomb with the pull. Scooped up by Sasha Pustovaya, the anchor of this Russian offense, and she slings one deep immediately. It's defended by Jessica Jones for the U.S. Coming out gunslinging the Russians, taking an early chance.
Pustovaya has the throws to take her team to the top as she has. Not surprised she's come out early with that, answering back from that very quick United States offensive point.
And Titcomb's deep shot sails long. First time really ever that Rory Titcomb's had a chance to play at a high level with her sister Chyna. Enjoyable experience. Both their parents are here. Become many celebrities at the fields in their own right. Claire Chastain, another star for USA, former Callahan Award winner. She was on the mark. Kristen Franke marks the Russian thrower Akramova, and a turnover. Chastain to pick up.
Patiently awaiting her team to set up downfield. Veteran move.
Titcomb back for Chastain. Breaks the mark beautifully, and it floats perfectly. Sally Mims hauls it in, 2-0 U.S.
Especially in a windy game, you never want to give the opposing team an easy opportunity at the end zone, and that's what Russia did. It was a pass that should have been completed at this level.
That disc expertly read by Sally Mims. Doesn't have a great position on the disc, recognizes she has steps over her defender, waits until the disc gets into the optimal position. It would be so tragic to bobble the disc in the end zone. We've talked so much about this wind and what it does on the receiving end. Sally recognizing that the conditions, while not as bad as yesterday, are still something to be considered when you're going in for a score.
Claire Chastain with the assist to Mims. Brian, you've watched more Ultimate over the last half decade than probably anyone else in the world. Where does Claire Chastain rank in the list of great women's players? I know she's still rising, still entering her prime, but I've always been so impressed with her ability.
She's just incredibly, I mean, the word I think of is pugnacious. Just the way she attacks things, and just a great thrower. You could tell just the intensity on her face. It's a joy to watch her play. And she's, like you said, Evan, a rising star in the women's ultimate community. And I think I'm a huge fan of women's ultimate. I don't know exactly where she's going to fall yet. I can tell you for sure, I liked watching her play for the U23 USA, winning gold in Toronto several years ago. Very impressive player.
The Russians being careless with the disc, but both teams have traded turnovers at times. When these two teams met in pool play, the U.S. team really was prepared for a very physical game. The Russians sort of had that reputation of being very aggressive on the mark, hacking your arms, and in a nice moment in the post-game spirit circle, Anna Nazarov, again born in Russia, in speaking Russian, as the Russian team gets on the board, working up the line for the score. It was a cool moment as Nazarov spoke to the Russian players in their language and basically said, we thought you guys were going to come out and play really overly aggressive and perhaps unspirited, and everything we thought was wrong, because played a totally and completely spirited game. And I know it helped to bring the teams closer together, earn some mutual respect collectively. So the offensive line back on here for the United States. That was pretty smooth looking flow from Team Russia. And
if you're Team USA, you have to change your strategy. You're in a windy game now. You're letting a team throw backhands up the sideline in that way. That's something we talked about at length yesterday, Evan. And in this situation, I would want to force forehand. I would want to be throwing that into the wind and not allow him to throw easy backhands up the sideline.
Nazarov with a filthy break to Howard, and now middle of the field for Malinowski. Nazarov, somewhat unguardable on those dump cuts. Such a slippery handler. Malinowski using her size in the middle, unleashes, but not enough float for Nesfajardo in pursuit.
That's a tough throw to make, and you know, I just said it, easy backhands up the sideline, but what that throw was an outside-in throw with the wind pushing it down into the ground. You can't show the wind the top of the disc and expect it to be able to stay in the air. You have to be throwing flat in all situations.
Anna Pustovaya picks up, sister of Sasha Pustovaya. Nastia Kochanova gets it to the middle of the field for Valeria Pichagina. Backhand leads to a spectacular layout. Anna Pustovaya looks to the end zone, and the Russians have scored 2 straight. Sergei Andre hauls in the tying score.
When you compare the resumes between these two teams, the United States tend to come from teams with a higher pedigree. So I'm not surprised to see the United States bringing out slightly more finessed throws. But what the Russian team lacks in throwing skills overall, they make up for in sheer athleticism. These are fast women who are giving it their all every single point. We're not seeing anything crazy from anyone just yet. We are just seeing fast movement down the field.
So the USA offensive line broken for the first time. Claire Chastain will lead this offensive line out there with Rory Titcomb, Sally Mims. Bree Howard stays on the field, as does Ness Fajardo. One member originally selected for the USA women's team that couldn't be here, Kelly Johnson, known as Vegas. Great player for Nemesis and a world champion this past year, moving out to Seattle with her husband Luke, who's done incredible things in the scope of Ultimate Video.
Megan, you've played with Kelly Johnson. Does she ever get tired?
I haven't seen it yet. I have not seen it yet.
Fortunately, some shoulder surgery keeping her out of this competition, trying to get ready for the summer and fall to get back to work with Seattle Riot. Mistake there. Bree Howard takes responsibility. You got to be careful, guys. The beach game, things can snowball in a hurry. Russia with the last 2 scores. It's a game to 13. 45 minutes in, the soft cap goes on.
A lot of these teams don't have coaches, and so adjustments are coming from the captains. Very hard to stay in the game, totally 100% committed to playing your role, and at the same time be able to make the strategic adjustments necessary in the win.
Anna Pustavaya airs one out. Bree Howard defending and comes up with the interception. Quickly for Titcomb. Chastain going deep. Into the end zone, it floats perfectly. What a put from Rory Titcomb.
That disc carried into the end zone with just a little extra help from the wind, still expertly put by Rory Titcomb and very well read by Claire Chastain, who did not lose position one single time. She made sure she kept her defender at her back so that she had a clear path to that disc.
You saw the turnover that happened, and I'll go back and forth on this throughout the entire game in terms of strategy into the win. Some teams are going to do different things, and what Team USA did successfully there, while I wouldn't have forced backhand, they were able to pin Russia to the sideline. And when you do that and put all of your defenders on that sideline and trap them there, there's nowhere else for them to go. And so when the huck goes up, Bree Howard is there. There's 4 other defenders in the area as well that are just honing in on that far sideline. It's going to work out for Team USA.
This is the other Titcomb with a pull, Chyna Titcomb. A pull that Rory would be proud of. This is an interesting junky look. 1 defender on the mark, a 3-person wall, and Nora Carr serving as the deep. And Russia slices through the junk. USA calls fire, tries to match up man. Beautiful put. The Russians retaliate. And in the end zone, it's Julia Akramova. We're tied at 3.
When I analyze this strategy, it's something that I wonder if USA will just ditch it after 1 unsuccessful attempt. They're sporting a 1-3-1, which means those 3 people in the wall in the middle of the field cannot be beaten the way they were. Russia was able to throw the seeing eye single, so to speak, through the zone, get it through, and after that, they're off to the races, and the transition isn't going to be as powerful to man-to-man defense. I would like to see that zone potentially again in this win. Stuff the middle of the field even tighter and force Russia to go around it. You can get beat a little bit to the side and then recover, but you cannot recover of something going through a zone.
And they sliced right down the heart of that zone, and once they did, got it past midfield. Not much the USA deep Nora Carr could do. Sarah Miller receives the pull quickly to Ness Fajardo, and Nazaroff to Howard. One-handed snag from Malinowski. Howard looking for Malinowski. Right on target. We're seeing some incredible shot making in this game, guys.
Yeah, that was a beautiful put to Howard to Malinowski, who is a fantastic target to hit, a difficult individual to defend. When you see her streaking deep, there have to be quite a few conditions at her disadvantage for you to not want to put that throw.
Howard excited, justifiably so. 4-3 USA. As Rory Titcomb again will pull. Out there with Chastain, Claudia Tajima, Kristen Franke,
and you see
Nora Carr.
You see Rory Titcomb flashing two, which in a lot of cases usually means force flick. One being backhand is the first throw you learn, two being forehand, the second throw you learn. But it could also be a different defensive look.
The handler defenders certainly poaching off here into the lanes. Consequently, Russia taking advantage. It's a little 1-2 back and forth game. They've gained 20 meters down the field.
But you know what? How they've done it is very slowly.
That floats into the grasp of Natalia Mashinova. And Russia proving worthy. Again, Sasha Pustovaya.
I can tell you, Evan, I'm in a little bit of strategic defensive heaven right now with USA showing me a different strategy every time down the field, which I love to see. I actually really enjoyed this look that they were able to put out in the field, and what they were doing was simply taking two of their handler defenders and playing a little bit of a loose poachy zone. You could call it a zone. A lot of people are just going to say it's a poach scheme or something else. They're letting Russia march up the field, but you know what? How Russia wants to score is with the long ball. And so if you're able to compress the field all of a sudden into this like half-court defense, so to speak, that you would see in basketball to avoid the full court fast break situation, Team USA can start to clamp down. Russia, though, got a little bit of luck with the disc blowing over the defender's head. That's the type of throw Team USA wants.
Yeah, it was almost luck that allowed Mashinova to make that catch, but then she saw Pustovaya in the end zone. Both Cosmic girls, one of the teams in Russia that won the Russian Open Championship in 2013. Chemistry prevailing for those two in that point.
Nazarov and Fajardo. Nazarov can't come up with a layout. Russia a chance for its first lead. To the end zone. 5-4. Not yet. Call made downfield. Looks like a pick. The USA catches a break. Anna Pustovaya. Wide open. Andre's second goal. This is kind of what we expected, guys. We knew USA was in for a tough fight, and Russia has come to play.
They haven't been able to solve the enigma yet of how to play defense against this Russian squad. What things left to try is really to just go with a hard man force trap against the sideline, but you know what? They faced this team before. They're going through the motions.
Let's hear some crowd support.
USA takes its first timeout, and its only timeout. In the game of beats, you only get one.
Great use of the timeout at this point. Offensively, I think they're doing well. Defensively, as you were saying, Brian, they need to talk about what adjustments can be made. They are doing some things to stagnate the offensive flow, but they're getting beat in the end zone. There are some women on the U.S. team with very high levels of ultimate intelligence, still not quite able to keep up and read the jukes that the Russian women are showing them, which is giving them, the Russian women, a clear path to the disc.
I gotta say, I've agreed with you almost all week, but I have to disagree with this timeout call. I would put the offense right back in the field. It was a short point. Let them get the job done. They know what they're doing. This is Team USA. Then I would call the timeout, because you're trying to discuss defense when you have to go back on the offensive side of the field. Really, when you come into a timeout, there's one thing you can discuss, and especially with how short it just was, they can make an adjustment. If they did feel like they needed to make an adjustment on offense, you know what, it could work out, but I'm a big believer in call the timeout after you score.
Well, out of the timeout, the offensive line consisting of Fajardo, Mims, Malinowski, Nazaroff, and Howard. Have to be impressed with how Russia's been able to move the disc through this win. Their throws, nothing to complain about.
And I think you see that from the Russians, who have to seek the big throws through their big players. Pustavaya.
Oh, what a pull. Just shy of the back line. Fajardo quickly for Nazaroff. And now Howard. A big flick fake leads to the hefty backhand, but not deep enough.
We still aren't quite to the levels of yesterday, but the wind is dramatically picking up and starting to really affect this game. Bree Howard is going to hit that pass if there's not that much wind.
Pichugina. And a deep shot spun toward the end zone, incomplete. Howard and Chanina for each team nearby. Chanina actually got her fingertips on that disc.
Yeah, I've seen Chanina make a few really amazing grabs. While I would say most people wouldn't have a play on that disc, wouldn't surprise me to see her do a back bend and come out with it.
Nazaroff again plucks it with one hand. For Howard. Malinowski. The big pivot. 50-50 disc, and Russia splats it down, perhaps a call.
I don't know what's being called here, and all four players converging almost nearly at the same time.
Contested foul, and they'll send it back. Nazaroff was sort of bodied away from the disc. With the stall count rising, Fajardo gets the reset with Mims. One thing that's really impressed me with this women's team all week long is how hard their players cut when they're clearing. Something that is like the unsung hero of skills.
Such a foundational part of good offense, creating space for other players.
Russian doing a pretty good job man-to-man defense, and Nazaroff breaks the mark. This is Mims. Nazaroff for Mims again. And too far ahead of Howard. We've seen that so many times this week. Your cutter has a step. You're used to leading them a certain length on grass, and you just don't make that adjustment, you overthrow. Some of the top throwers in the world have made that mistake here on the beach.
Especially on that end of the field right now with this wind, Brian, I think you hit the nail on the head. If you are not careful with how you tilt that disc, the wind is just going to push it straight down to the ground. You saw that it looked like the disc flight path intended for a longer trajectory, just didn't quite make it.
Ivakina marked by Nazaroff, by Fajardo. Back to Ivakina, playing catch with Pichugina. Underneath, Pichugina looking to the end zone. Howard got just enough of that disc to prevent the Russians from taking a multi-score lead.
I am loving that matchup, Howard and Chanina. We've seen them battle twice. I am sure that is not the last time we see those two go head-to-head in the air.
Bree Howard, along with Ness Fajardo and Anna Nazaroff, three of the backbones of the Fury's success over the last decade.
Let's continue to grow more and more impressed with Anna Nazaroff day after time. Just every time you watch her play, she has such presence behind the disc, an ability to get open when your team needs it, deliver consistently in a high-pressure situation. This is the person's probably going to carry Team USA if they come to victory here. It's going to carry the offensive load and make some of the huge mental decisions.
We're talking about the 2007 Callahan Award winner, Anna Nazaroff with UCLA, part of the group that helped begin that women's college team. Fajardo airs one out. Malinowski's on the spot, just shy of the end zone. Chastain, who just came in, creates the space for Fajardo.
And the game is tied again.
Nazaroff, a decoy on that point. It was Fajardo and Malinowski. We're tied at 5.
I'm sure against a lesser team, Malinowski would have walked into the end zone with that disc, would have tried to milk it for a few more yards, but knowing that this team is incredibly fit and very athletic, she intelligently caught it just outside the end zone. Of course, Fajardo, who put that throw out to begin with, streaking down the field to come in for the score.
Now these teams counter-punch in the women's gold medal game. Here at the 2015 World Beach Ultimate Championships, a once every 4-year event. From Brazil to Portugal to Italy, and now here in Dubai. A destination that I think the ultimate world would be eager to come back to in the future with how well people have been treated this week, how gorgeous the beach has been despite the wind and the sandstorm over the past couple of days. Underneath for Kochoneva. Into the end zone, the Russians reassert their advantage. Catch made by Julia Akramova, 6'5" for Team Russia.
I'm not sure Team USA is employing the best strategy on the marks. I saw a lot of flat marks giving up breaks, and I wonder if it's because they're afraid of the Russian hucks. At some point, you can't be afraid of a team striking deep. You have the athletes to deal with it. Megan, you played against these Team USA women many a time. They have all sorts of athletes that could handle, or not be afraid, at least fearless against these Russian playmakers.
Well, in that last point, it really looked like Team USA was chasing after the Russian women every single throw. So if you're going to play a man defense and not be able to keep up, then absolutely you need to start forcing the unders. I think I understand why they don't want to go up against Russia on those jump balls. Very, very athletic women on Team USA, as you said. It's certainly not an appropriate height matchup across the board on Team Russia. But if they find themselves constantly chasing after the Russian women, then yes, absolutely, it's time to make an adjustment.
Sarah Miller out there on the offensive line for the U.S. After Fajardo played a big role in that last point. Nazaroff, Howard, Malinowski, and Miner. The USA quintet. Miner looking for Malinowski, but that's going to be overthrown. Really impressed with how the Russian defense is handcuffing the USA on some of these unders.
Yeah, at some point I have to start giving them credit too for the job that they're doing so far, and they offensively are doing a great job of hitting big time throws in the wind and at the same time putting the pressure.
Oh, tremendous defense there from Sally Mims. I beg your pardon, that's Nazaroff. The Nazarov D leads to the Howard assist. Malinowski the score. We're tied at 6.
Howard so patient with that throw. You saw the kind of connection she had with Malinowski. Just waited into Malinowski, had sufficiently moved around to get an open cut.
Again, in the women's division, the USA was undefeated this week, but not unchallenged. Taken a double game point by Great Britain. The USA prevailed 11-10. Taken to the wire by Russia. The USA prevailed 11-9. In the semis, the US beat Canada 11-6. Russia over Great Britain 9-7. The semifinals held early yesterday morning. The last couple of days, Team USA has played at 8 a.m. local time and then been done for the day. So it's been an interesting schedule. They were busy the first couple of days, but in the women's division, there are only 7 countries competing. So these legs should be fresh. In some ways, they haven't had as much experience as the other teams playing with one another. This is Sasha Pustavaya, who led the women's division in assists, far ahead of the rest of the field. Dumanskaya over to Kochanova. "15 minutes until the soft cap goes on." Every point so critical. It actually seems to be more of a Russian flavor in the crowd. Perhaps because they're the underdog, perhaps because the USA Open team is in the distance, warming up, getting ready for their final. The Russian Open team is in the stands cheering on their country ladies. Pick called.
United States showing much tighter man defense in this point. But you see how fiercely Russia is holding on to the disc. The United States not able to rely on a turnover to regain possession. The few times they've had the opportunity to take the disc after starting out on D is when they went out and created the D. There have been so few Russian turnovers.
Very impressed with the break throws that Russia is showing. USA has a very difficult task against the length of the throwers to try to prevent the backhands going up the line.
Another good break throw. Mashanova able to connect. Kochanova with the score, and Russia takes half 7-6.
Again, to explain to you, there was actually no halftime. They would be just mirroring, switching ends for the first half.
USA is going to have to pull here, guys, after that Russian score. With it being the theoretical start of the second half, not much of a break, but USA received to start the game, so Russia will receive to begin this quasi-second half. Beautiful view here on the beaches in Dubai.
So due to the halftime flipping, we will now start with Russia.
25 different countries here in this tournament, over 1,000 athletes. And it's all come down to today, Championship Friday. A good day for the United States so far with wins in Grandmasters. Great comeback in that one, overcoming a 9-5 deficit late to beat Sweden 10-9. And in the Open Masters, USA team exerting its influence early en route to the 13-8 gold medal winner. This one very tight. Russia leading 7-6 as Rory Titcomb pulls on what is the deep point for USA, down by 1. Contact on the mark. No contest from Howard. Pustavaya. He's got great length. Aggressive pivots in the throw, knocked away. Nora Carr comes up with a D.
Absolutely vital effort from USA on this point.
Lori Titcomb resets for Chastain. Carr for Titcomb. Stall count rising. Titcomb floats one to the back of the end zone. Howard! Sensational grab from Cree Howard to tie this thing up.
5 minutes left in the game, ladies and gentlemen.
And that's where the USA athletic advantage is going to be pronounced.
Sorry, that's 10 minutes.
Cree Howard, one of the dominant athletes in the game today.
Great save by Howard. I'd also like to point out that Rory Titcomb did an excellent job of making that a very viable option. Sometimes when you throw a last-ditch desperation throw, you can kind of let technique go out the window. She gave herself just enough time in that stall count that was running out to get low, keep that lip up, put enough finesse on the disc that it would actually float high and long enough for one of her teammates to run it down. Howard pulling that out in the nick of time.
Yeah, veteran experience on display for Team USA. That's a break to be in the second half. How will the Russians respond? Disc in the hands of Pustavaya, and Sasha airs it out. Nazarov came as the help defender, and no one could reach that disc. Nazarov, dangerous though, but Chastain runs through. As good as anyone in the women's game.
And that may have looked like a dangerous throw, but I have no doubt that Nazarov, the Mad Dog, had the confidence to fit that one into that tiny space.
Looked like Gina Titcomb was fouled. And she was.
That's a case of a thrower throwing someone open in a way, taking advantage of the tiny window. Normally it's a throw to space, but that one was just...
In this game, theoretically, you'd like a little more separation on a cut, but the trust that Nazarov had in Chastain there to run through.
There must be some sort of ESP with Callahan winners.
I guess we'll never know.
They're in a special club. Chastain winning it with UNC Wilmington a couple years back. Nazarov for UCLA in 2007. Gina Titcomb to the end zone, all off the hands of Tajima.
Great find, great execution from Gina. We saw Tajima almost had that disc under her control. Didn't quite get her other hand underneath it enough to stop rotation.
Russians take a timeout. Sasha Pustavaya will have the disc. Earlier today, I was sitting and chatting with some of the USA Open guys and talking about this women's matchup. Tyler Kinley was telling me how the sockeye team went to Russia to run some clinics, and he came away with the impression that the Russian women are as good as any in the world, in particular Sasha Pustavaya, talking about how dominant she was, and saying that the Russian mixed scene should run through the women because they are so far and above other women in countries in Europe. We've seen in this game sort of that theory, that hypothesis come to fruition, because USA generally considered tops in the world. This has been a grind from start to finish. USA led 2-0, but ever since the Russians tied it up, they've been the team with the advantage.
You know, coming out of half with USA having the pull and go on defense, a lot of people would say, you know, that's a bad place to be, and I would agree in most circumstances, but USA needs to figure out, and it looks like they have a little bit of how to defend in this win. And once they can do that, they can go to work with because their advantage should be their depth and a patient offense. Russia is going to run through a couple of players that have some big-time throws, and I think we may start to see, after this timeout call, some of the legs starting to lose some energy, as it's just tough to maintain, play so many points on the sand, as you well know, Megan.
Yeah, after a while, sheer force of will just doesn't seem to be enough to make your legs want to go in the sand.
Pustovaia finally discovers a target. Elizaveta Voronkova hits Pustovaia. Marked by Chastain, the throw forward off the fingertips of Dumanskaya.
A very rare error from Russia on this point. If USA wants to take the game away, this is the point where they can do that. If they convert this Russian error, they are going to take themselves back into the advantage and potentially shift the momentum in their favor.
Titkum to Nazarov. Shooting deep. Gina Titkum. So close. She says it counts. USA celebrating as if they've scored a sensational goal, and the Russians with their hands in the air. Impossible to tell from that angle, but a tremendous effort from Gina Titkum. Gotta say, guys, watching it live, I thought she got that toe just inside the line. I think this should be good.
I think so as well. Here's another angle.
The mercy of the Porto field. So tough to tell. If she extends the Porto field with her toes, does it count? Probably not. Looks like the Russians are going to insist that this be sent back.
Yeah, with the sand kicked up, I don't have any way of telling whether or not that was truly in. But we're here after a close game that seemed to have a pretty good pace. We're 4 minutes away from soft cap. Every point here is going to matter greatly.
So tough to, I mean, she has possession there. U of R perch in the stands, packed with fans here in this women's title game. So back in the hands of Nazarov for Chastain. Up line, Gina Titkum cannot get to that one. Appears to be a tad shaken up. And it looks like Gina Titkum will take an injury sub. Cree Howard will replace her. Pustovaia, marked by Chastain, unleashes a backhand. No real target there for Sasha Pustovaia. And now Nazarov, underneath for Chastain. Good around swing, continued to Howard, and that was interrupted. Kochanova got a piece of that Howard forehand. You're right, Brian. We are creeping closer to the soft tap. This could be the point that sets the tone for who wins this thing. Kochanova for Pustovaia. Voronkova, low throw, kept alive. Back for Pustovaia. USA needing to bear down defensively unless Russia makes a mistake, which they do. A careless one-arm drop from Dumanskaya.
Both of these teams are so tired, and that timeout was taken by U.S. very early on. You're seeing a need for fresh legs.
A punt from Chastain. Don't believe anything was called. Rory Titcomb, one of the leaders of this American team, trying to encourage her to get back on defense. You can see with the length of time that all these players are taking to get into position, that fatigue that you mentioned. I mean, Megan, of the three of us, you've played a beach world championship before, and these marathon points, can you compare it to the level of fatigue on grass, or is it tougher just because every step takes so much more effort?
It's definitely tougher because every step takes so much more effort.
Just out of the reach of Voronkova.
And both of you know from playing marathon points how common it is for long throws to go off. You waste so much more energy when you're trying to sprint down the field in sand versus grass.
A lot of contact there between Titcomb and Dumanskaya, but it doesn't look like anything was called. Titcomb saying she did not really have a play on the disc before the contact. So Pustovaya has it intercepted in the end zone by Howard. How big has Cree Howard been in this game?
You need to find Anna Nazaroff.
Just out of the reach.
Even though there have been mistakes on both sides of the disc, I still feel like Russia is looking a little more collected than the United States at this point. Their offense typically gets the start of things going before an error or a D turns the disc in the U.S.'s favor. If I had to wager a guess as to who is going to win this point, I would say Russia right now.
Pustovaya. Marked well by Chastain. Now it's Dumanskaya with Titcomb on her. Mashanova, contact.
Injury, right knee.
And that's the Russian star, Sasha Pustovaya, who appears to be in great pain on the field. They saw the knees collide. Inadvertent contact, but a scary moment here with a game in the balance, the gold medal in the balance. And immediately yelping in pain, Sasha Pustovaya, who led the women's division in assists. She had 30. In second place was Great Britain's Rebecca Forth with 20. She lapped the field in terms of production from a playmaking standpoint.
Another umbrella, please.
United States and Russia tied 7-all. The soft cap will go on after this point, so whoever scores, regardless, it'll be a game 2-9. Rory Titcomb colliding with Sasha Pustovaya, knee to knee. And not putting any weight at all on the right leg as Pustovaya gets carried off the field.
As instrumental as she has been leading Russia to this finals game, I feel like the effort from all of the women on the Russian team have been about equal. Playmaker she has been this week, I think they're going to do fine if she's not able to take the field again. However, I'm sure everyone's hoping that everything is okay.
Valeria Pichugina replaces her. It will be USA disc, or will it not? No, a foul called, and Russia will keep it. So the restart. And USA called a pick.
No point, pick call.
Malinowski made the call. That's Olga Kochanova. And it was her defender who got screened by that defensive cluster. Titcomb forcing flick, short backhand. And now Russia looking for the lead. Dumanskaya for Kochanova. Voronkova marked by Nazarov. Great patience from the Russians on the goal line and even better defense from the Americans. Another very intense sequence building here at Beach World 2015, and one key mistake could be the difference. Dumanskaya with a stall count rising, just could not get enough float on that disc.
That was some very intense defensive pressure from the United States. Another matchup downfield I really liked was Malinowski against Mashianova. Mashianova rendered nearly useless by Malinowski's very quick reads of her jukes.
Downfield in the end zone, it was Malinowski, Chastain, and Nazarov guarding their Russian counterparts who are making the end zone cuts. Titcomb marked by the long arm, Dumanskaya to Chastain. Airs it out. Will there be enough float for Malinowski? What a shot for the United States! Chastain to Malinowski. The throw of the tournament, perhaps.
What else is there to say, Evan? You've said it already. That was an incredible throw from Chastain. And it's one of the reasons why you have to love to watch her play. The risk-taking, the fearlessness in a moment that matters most. And when I turn to the other side for Team Russia now, how are they going to be able to mentally handle this? It's going to be fresh legs for both squads, no matter what the situation. But when your hero, your commander-in-chief, so to speak, is on the sideline after suffering a painful injury, are your thoughts in the game? Because that's where they need to be. You can't do anything about what's happened, only looking forward to now.
Certainly mental toughness huge as Russia's back against the wall. This is a game to 9. It looked like Malinowski had used every last ounce of energy, and yet she stays on the field for this deep point with Fajardo, Carr, Chyna Titcomb, and Jessica Jones.
And this is where momentum shifts can occur. The adrenaline rush you get from winning a point like that can give you the extra energy you need to play another point on grass or on the beach.
This is Dumanskaya, forward for Kochanova. And a foul away from the play. There's Sasha Pustavaya in the tent, getting consoled. Great shot by our crew. She was in serious pain on the field after she collided knees with Rory Titcomb. If Russia scores, we'll have 1 point for the gold medal. Oh, a layout deep from Titcomb, but she went through the back of Kochanova. Make it Akramova. And a foul was called. They shake hands, and it appears no contest. Incredible spirit in this moment. Akramova looking in the end zone, but too far for Kochanova. So the USA will have the disc. And this could be a gold medal winning possession. Fajardo will pick up. Chyna Titcomb lines up near the goal line as her handler with Carr, Malinowski, and Jones downfield. Jones took off. Malinowski, good straight up mark there by Janina. Fajardo with a huge fake. Plays through the bump and throws it away. The huge reach of Kochanova. The Russians again looking for the tie. Will that one float enough? Akramova makes the play. And in the women's title game, it will all come down to this next point.
USA will get their offense on the field. Universe point line, it looks like Titcomb Rory will join them. Cree Howard, Anna Nazaroff.
Malinowski and Fajardo, who turned it over on that last point, is going to stay out there. So 3 members of San Francisco Fury, along with Seattle Riot captain Rory Titcomb and Boston Brute squad star Becky Malinowski on this Universe point line for the Women's Beach Worlds representatives.
We've seen the United States be incredibly patient and conservative with their offense, and that usually generates a very quick score. We've also seen them be slightly careless. It comes down to a matter of whether or not they can contain their nerves enough to make the decisions they are more than capable of making.
Russia with Anna Pustovaya pulling it downfield. Rory Titcomb will pick it up. Mashanova, Pichugina, Pustovaya, Voronkova, and Kochanova, the lineup for Russia. Nazaroff to Fajardo on Universe point. Malinowski. Howard. Less than 10 meters from the front of the end zone. Nazaroff resets. Pivots and finds Howard. Nazaroff takes the shot right on the money. Nazaroff to Howard creates a gold medal champion here in Dubai. On Universe point, the United States wins 9-8 over Russia. Conservative thinking around the goal line until Anna Nazaroff let one rip.
We had seen so much patience, so much holstering of throws that perhaps could have made it. And then a beautiful inside-out tight flick to win it all.
Immediately after the reception, you saw the Titcomb sisters embrace, finding each other first before going to the rest of the team. You can imagine that must be an emotional moment for both of them, being able to play together. When in doubt, trust in the Mad Dog, Anna Nazaroff.
The Fury connection to win it. Nazaroff to Howard. Unbelievable finish. And another great championship game that truly lived up to the hype here on the beaches in Dubai. The United States with another gold medal as the women's division goes to the Americans once again. And for the second straight Beach World Championships, it takes a Universe point throw. Last time it was Rory Titcomb 4 years ago. She was on the field again on Universe, but it's Nazaroff, still very much in her prime. She just turned 30, and yet she still very much has a lot of great ultimate ahead of her. So the United States victorious in the women's division, 9-8 over Russia. We still have 2 more championship games to come. On deck next, USA versus Great Britain in the open division, 2 teams that have not lost yet this week. So the women's title goes to the United States in dramatic fashion. Anna Nazaroff to Cree Howard a sensational finish here on the beach. For our entire crew, Dubai Sports, in partnership with Sky Magazine, and for my broadcast tandem of Megan Tormey and Brian Jones, this is Evan Lepler saying so long for now. We will have the Open Championship coming up at the top of the hour. More great ultimates still to come. But in the women's division, a sensational effort from the Russians, and they ultimately fall short. Team USA, gold medalists in the women's division.